Hello and welcome back to the SimTech podcast, the show where we dive into the world of clinical simulation, one conversation at a time. I'm your host Craig, and today I'm joined by Stephen, a simulation specialist with a deep understanding of how simulation transforms training and patient care. In this episode, we'll explore Stephen's journey into the world of simulation, his current role, and how he's helping shape the way healthcare professionals learn and grow through innovative sim-based education. From tech setup to scenario design and everything in between, Stephen's got some great insights to share. So whether you're a seasoned sim tech or just starting out, there's something in here for everyone. So let's get into it. Hello and welcome to another episode at the SimTech podcast. Today we are going behind the scenes, starting to get to know its members of its community. And to help me do that, I brought along a special guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Good morning, Craig. I'm Stephen Ford, simulation specialist at St. Xavier University in Chicago, Illinois. Thank you for having me here.
Wow, no worries. I'm guessing it's nice and early for you because it's late in the afternoon for me. What's the weather going to be doing today for you?
Well, we've recently had a heat wave in the
Yeah, us too. I think it probably went to you and then it probably came straight back over to us. Probably
right,
drifting along that way.
right. It's about it was a 90s Fahrenheit throughout the week. We had some isolated thunderstorms last night, and this morning it's just everything's wet and muggy. So now it's just the humidity is at
Yeah, it sounds familiar
yeah.
actually. It sounds exactly what happened to us. Our world shuts down if it's just not normal for us. It doesn't matter if it's too cold, too hot, the world just, it just stops working. I mean, are you blessed with things like air conditioning? I suspect you are.
We do. I have air conditioning, but as all things, they need maintenance and things like that. So
Yeah. You
we're
know,
we're keeping our own.
the best we get is a sketchy fan that might just blow hot air at us. That's probably the best we're going to get. All right, Stephen, brought you over here to talk all about you. I mean, how long have you been doing simulation?
Well, I want to say I started in simulation about 2015 or so, so about 10 years. I have a decade under my belt of experience.
And what did you do before?
Well, it was pretty much at the same time. So I was a critical care paramedic at the same time. I started that journey in 2013. Um, I graduated academy from there, got my critical care certificate, was event certified, and an opportunity came by. At the time, it was, hey, do you want to work as a part time sim tech in the sim lab? So I remember getting the phone call. I was actually out camping in one of the um, forests that we used to go to up in Wisconsin, and I remember just having that conversation with my future manager. It was the signal wasn't the best. It was I remember walking uphill, so I was a little winded, and I said, you know what? Yeah, that's not a problem. I'll give it a shot.
What's your
So
first question? What is a sim tech?
right, a little bit. I'm always open to everything and anything as far as work. I have a very diverse backgrounds as far as work. I don't really tend to say no. You want to do this? Not a problem. Let's go do it.
A bit of a
So
yes man, I see.
a little bit, a little bit. I do have my limits um, because
Ooh,
yeah.
what are those?
Oh
What are
well,
limits?
I mean, first and foremost, I always want to believe that the any request, especially ones that are you know ones that are easily achievable. Why not? Why couldn't I do that? Some of the things that I tend to not, I like to say, yeah, let's think about it. Let's see, give you some options here. Let's pause a little bit. Things that are um, sometimes high risk, sometimes that are that need a lot of resources and that need to happen right now. So let's pause. Let's pause and think about this for a moment. And I think that's partly from my emergency management days where disaster can happen at any time, either man made or natural, where in those first critical instances, people look to us as the ones that are going to try to hold the ship up and keep everything afloat. They're panicking. There's no sense in panicking. So let's take a step back. So that's kind of how I tend to look at the world as far as that goes. So
Yeah, I think it's a a really good way of looking at it, not shutting
yeah,
yourself off to anything. Because I know some people, and they're in their own right to keep themselves to just what their job description is and keep within those kind of boundaries. But sometimes people come with issues that are not quite within your boundaries, but still it's still relevant. And again, I'm a bit of a yes man myself as well, as long as it's
yeah,
relevant.
definitely. Any reasonable request, I have no problem with it. And having the diverse background that I do, um, I have no problem trying. If I can't get you an answer, I'll try to find somebody that will, as best I can. I think that being very innovative in some of the recommendations might actually be a good thing, even though it might be something off the wall. But there are some things that even myself, it's like, wait, let's put the brakes on that.
Yeah.
That's either not my job or I'm really not comfortable in doing it. Knowing your limitations um,
Yeah, I
is
think
part
that's
of that.
key as well. And do you find that maybe people might take advantage of your good nature?
Yeah, sometimes there is that case. I try to guard myself against that, give the benefit of the doubt, but at the same time, what's happening, and is that just a simple, hey, I need this, okay, and this is just a repeat thing, or is it just you kind of have to have a guard up as well, because you also don't want to be used and abused, if you will.
Yeah, of course. You're one of the, what I'll say, one of the rarer techs. So you come with a clinical background. And if I might be as bold as to say, your medical knowledge might be exceed your technical knowledge, or would you say they're kind of in par? Because sometimes I get techs on here that have no clinical background, but they're very good at tech stuff. And me, myself, and you, we're kind of clinical, so we have maybe a weaker area in the tech. Does that ring true with you?
I would have to say that this is sometimes I go back and forth about, because while my clinical background and my clinical experience is vital to what I do, I think it is important. Is it necessary? Not necessary. There's a lot of simulation technicians that come from no clinical background, as you said. But I think it's important that you understand and kind of talk the talk, walk the walk, and being able to on the fly know what devices are, how to do the devices, how to do procedures, at least know the illusion of what those procedures are, so you can be effective at what you do. Now, myself, I want to say about 50-50. I started an IT journey back in 95, if that tells you anything. So, um, being always curious about electronics, how computers work, how all of that communicates, and did a lot of self study. Then taking that, going into paramedic school, learning about paramedicine and how to be effective there. When I was working at the med school as a simulation specialist, the the knowledge base surrounding yourself with those individuals and having those candid conversations of, well, why is this, how is this, made me grow as an individual. So I know vastly more information um, than paramedics in their education know. And it's just because I've gone in the nitty gritty of, well, how do you do a central line? How is that? Where does it go? What is a dilator? Um, where in our scope of practice, we know what the end result is. Okay, it's just a line that's hanging out of your chest or your arm or whatever the case may be, and that's about it, and how to take care of that. So I took and I merged paramedicine, critical care, doing that experience, ventilators, and merging it with technology. And we have a very rigorous continuing education program. So we have to make sure that we dedicate ourselves to that craft as well. Not only the IT craft that we kind of know and all in love, but also the medical side of things. So, in a short answer, about 50-50.
Yeah, and I think you're right. It's how can how can somebody do, for instance, a gunshot wound or a burn, or if they've never really had any experience from that, it must give you a different insight into it, having a clinical background rather than a technical background sometimes. But there is positives of the other way around as well, isn't there? Sometimes your clinical skills can maybe get in the way of just doing, sometimes a simple tech job. Do you ever find that that's the case?
Sometimes there is that case. So I do agree with that statement of it's difficult to portray what you're trying to portray in a scenario without being in that field or in those shoes and having that experiences. Okay, yeah, the arterial line blood will bleed this way, venous will bleed, so on and so forth. Sometimes I do find that getting in the way because uh, the expectation is, hey, come help me. I need help with my computer. And
Mm.
then sometimes we dive into the scenario itself. But I do think that there's a small dependency on knowing the scenario and how that works, because then I look at it as, well, what are the options that I have? If I have a failure of equipment, or I have failure of the network, or I have failure of the simulator, what are my options? So I kind of leverage that occupancy of the scenario in my head as a positive, where okay, what's plan A, plan B, plan C, so on and so forth, all the way up to plan G at one point in my career. So, yes, it can, but I leverage it in a good way.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I know I take it for granted, even when maybe doctors and nurses forget actual techs are just techs. Sometimes you can say, oh, I don't know, for instance, go sort out go do the next casualty, put a pneumothorax or a chest drain in, or, even something sometimes as simple as put a cannula in, and actually knowing whereabouts the locations for these are. Sometimes doctors and nurses might take that kind of stuff for granted. If you just had, for instance, a technical background, I mean, it must be really difficult, learning that kind of skills if you've got no medical background coming in to this kind of environment.
I do have I yes, I believe that it would be difficult. I had the opportunity about a year ago, and I went to Laerdal's headquarters in New York, just north of New York City, and I had the great opportunity to learn preventative maintenance and simulator repair from their program. I do recommend the program. I do. For anybody that's dealing with Laerdal products, yeah, definitely. But I found out that out of the four individuals that took the course, I was the only one with a clinical background. Yeah, everybody else did not have that. And having the conversations that I did, is they did find it challenging to know the anatomical positions are, and where this goes, and what does this device do, and where's this device, where's it supposed to go, and what is the rate to set a pump, and things like that. When you're not in that when you're not in that world, it makes it, I think, that much more difficult to help when there's, I think, a need for that. I am a very strong advocate of making um, individuals that aren't healthcare providers or don't have a healthcare background to I'd like to empower them to reach out to their leaders and say, hey, I need some help. I like to increase my knowledge. Send me to a CPR course. Send me to an ACLS PALS course as at least as a primer. Maybe a basic health assessment course. Maybe um, some type of nice and easy healthcare provider, so you can at least gain that knowledge and increase your awareness of what's happening. I think it makes you more of an effective individual, and helps cross that barrier of, I'm a healthcare provider. Well, I'm not. On the other hand, so how do we know what we are talking about? So it helps with translation, I believe.
Yeah, I think you're right there. So, do you work in a simulation center then, or in part of a hospital, or what does it look like?
So my current center, I do work. It's the Simulation Integrated Learning Center at St. Xavier University. It is at a BSN, Bachelor's of Nursing School, and so right now purely academia. We do have clinical partners. We don't really do much work with our clinical partners as far as simulations go. My last job was also at a university. I came from Northwestern University, and same thing. Though Northwestern had a working agreement with the hospital, so we would do in situ simulations within the hospitals as far as whatever you can think of. So we would at times drag all of our equipment upstairs or downstairs or wherever we were between the campus. Here we don't really do that.
What does in situ look like for you? Do you use cameras, debrief rooms, high fidelity mannequins, those kind of stuff, or is it a little bit what I'll say less? I don't want to say lower fidelity, less higher fidelity.
Well, when I did in situ often years ago, it was we dragged up everything. We brought our simulator, Simman 3G. We built a custom cart with two computers, two monitors, uh, boom cameras, webcams. We had the network infrastructure kind of brought with us to make sure that everything's hardlined and we do not rely on wireless communication, especially in the hospital when the next room over is just there is no connectivity through the other side of the wall. So we brought all the supplies, IV supplies, medications, whatever, whatnot. So we brought all that with us. Um, we used to do neuro simulations, and we also did a cardiac arrest simulation. As I was kind of transitioning from one place to another, that was one of my last in situ simulations.
Do
Everybody
you
was
um
involved.
do you warn them that you come in, or is it kind of a little bit of a surprise? Because we started doing that ourselves a little bit. We're getting mixed results, not telling everybody, and then kind of just pulling the crash alarm and seeing who comes, and then kind of don't want to say tricking them into training, but because preparing for training and just going in completely unaware of what's happening. I think there's a real training value there. Is yours more planned than that, or?
I think there's value in being surprised, especially for somebody that's experienced. The caveat is knowing how the simulator and how the systems work before you go into that scenario, into that room. So knowing that, oh, we're not going to feel a pulse on this guy because it's low fidelity. Or if you do have a high fidelity simulator, well, where are the pulse points? So then when you're working your scenario, your expectation of the anatomical location is we're going to feel a pulse here in the carotid. Oh, you got to press this hard. We didn't know that. So I think there's some missteps that can happen when you're in the moment. You're trying to respond appropriately. You rely on your training, but then you miss that one point of, oh, this is a simulator and I don't know the nuances of the simulator or the location or the equipment that's there because we didn't do a proper pre-brief or orientation to the environment. So it's kind of that element of surprise. How surprised are you going to be when you're running those in situ simulations?
Yeah, I think you're right, because there's a real almost psychological safety issue there as well, isn't there? If you just throwing them in and kind of expecting them to understand what we call simulation artifact almost. We try to make it as real as possible, but you're never going to be 100% there, are you, when you're using mannequins? So that you're right. They're probably going to need to know that kind of stuff. Um, Before we move too far forward, I wanted to ask: do you stay current as a paramedic, or do you get to have clinical hours?
I am current in my licensure. Currently, our state requires 100 hours of continuing education at least for every 4 year cycle. So I just renewed. I got my renewal here in December of 24. So I am freshly renewed. I'm also nationally certified through the National Registry. And that's just another set of, I believe, 60 hours every 2 years.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, I definitely try to stay abreast of all the current information and making sure that I know what I need to know to maintain my licensure. I do try to practice the skills. I work at a sim center, so what better place to practice my skills? Now, mind you, it's just myself practicing. Um, so I would like to see a little bit more oversight saying, hey, you practice it successfully and get some actual paperwork from there that fortifies that skill. So I can just as easily say not only that I have the knowledge of continuing education, whether it's um, didactic online or classroom, it's also your psychomotor skills are also brushed up. So I try my best to continue that aspect of things because we don't have a clinical requirement that I know of.
Knowing what you know now with your simulation background, when you go to do simulation as a on the other side of the glass as a paramedic, do you find yourself approaching the training differently because you kind of know the inside game of what's going on with simulation?
I do. I do take my stances on that is because I am in the know. I'm behind the curtain. I know how it works. I know what the expectations are, how the simulators work, and things like that. So it depends. If I'm a one-on-one, I try to take my time and focus on the scenario, focus on the tasks at hand. And if I'm in a larger group, I tend to take the lead a little bit more because I know where the pulse points are. I know what the injection sites are, and I know what all that where that all is. And sometimes we don't get a good explanation of what the expectations are. So I tend to take the lead on that as best I can. I try to also let whoever's in charge of that scenario say, "Hey, I know what the background is. I know what the expectations are. So do you want me to take the lead or do you want me to kind of sit back and let everybody else? I don't want to spoil it for everybody else because I also believe in a very organic experience for everyone that's running those scenarios. So it's kind of a difficult thing. And I think the easy way to circumnavigate that is to have that discussion before the scenario itself.
What does a normal day look like for you then? If you were just coming to work on a Monday, what kind of stuff do you do?
So right now, currently in the summer, it's a little bit slower in the sim center as far as events are going. That gives us the opportunity to start planning. We have a traditional semester, 16-week semester based curriculum here. So our summers, while we still have summer courses, we have the the accelerated BSN program. Uh, we're only dealing with 16 individuals, 30 individuals at a time. During our normal, if you will, day-to-day operations is vastly different through the other semesters. So in the summer, we tend to do a lot more planning, a lot more conversations, a lot more ordering, trying to do inventory, preventative maintenance, fix things. So outside of this morning, preparing for what we're doing here, um, I'm already installing headsets. I'm looking at cable, checking signals, making sure that the software is updated. Um, so I think my day to day is get a pen and paper, write down a list of what needs to get done in the next day or so, and then write down a list that needs to be taken care of week or so, and constantly update that list because I tend to lose track of okay, did I do that? Did I do this? So that's kind of the summer. Throughout our regular scheduled program, we tend to make sure that the event is set up, the event is run. So whoever's going to be running a simulation, a scenario, or if we're going to do just skills, we want to make sure we're available for that. And we meet with the faculty members that are in charge of those courses, that they have all the resources to get their day started. So that's kind of how our
Do
typical day to
you
day.
do you do any teaching because you've got a medical background as well, or are you just purely tech?
Not currently here. I am CPR, ACLS, and PALS instructor. I was an EMS lead instructor, and I'm interested in renewing that licensure. But that's currently, as far as outside of here, it's CPR, ACLS, PALS, instructing. Also, I do stop the bleed, so I teach that. And if anybody needs any type of information, I'm happy to share with them. Um, how to read 12 lead EKGs, how to make sure you understand your rhythms, what kind of medication. So that's usually outside conversations that I have, but not formally here um, at the current moment.
Do you get any time to work on projects or anything more on the innovation side?
Well, yes, there is times when we're not working on events and making sure everything else is taken care of. I have a vast amount of projects that uh, I'm I'm working on constantly. A new one that I'm spearheading is asset management and inventory control. So that's just a project that's been going on for a long time, and we never really got a good solution. I did pilot and pioneer a solution at my last job, and it worked out really great for our team. We were able to order, make sure everything's tracked. If we needed preventative maintenance, work orders, um, it was great. So I wanted to take that same workflow or very similar workflow, modify to how we work here, and see what the results. So recently we've signed an agreement with Asset Panda. They're located out of Texas, and I think the software allows individuals and places to be able to granularly track all of their assets and their inventory, their consumables, if you will. And it's customizable. So after vetting 4 or 5 different solutions, um, we settled on Asset Panda, which I've done years ago. I think they're great for sim centers. While there is a little bit of a price tag attached to it, I think it pays itself in dividends with saving time and costs and tracking that inventory and those assets. So that's just one project that I get to kind of work on spearheading. Um, there's other projects that I like to work on as well as data collection, making sure that be an active participant on it. While I'm not necessarily spearheading all of that, we're trying to gather data on how are the scenarios, what are they looking like. So one thing that I've been working on, though I think there's an opportunity to increase that, is tracking what gets used, how much material gets used. So as far as an innovative project, not necessarily. It's we don't really have the time currently to do that. And I may be forgetting a couple other projects here and there, but um,
You
once,
mentioned
yeah.
you mentioned that you have to set up the headsets. Is that VR headsets that you're working with?
Well, so the headsets I was talking about earlier were just these headsets, but another project, and thank you for bringing that up, is we are vetting some VR headsets as well. So we're working with 4 vendors right now to kind of vet what what portfolios they have to offer as far as what can meet the objectives of the School of Nursing. So um, right now we're kind of started this past last week. We sat down, we put the headsets on, we started venturing through the software. This week we're going to continue that. We're going to do that for the next month or so, kind of on and off. So I put together a checklist, if you will, or a guide on our thoughts to kind of gather our thoughts. Do we like the software? What does it have to offer? Does it meet our needs? So that's just part of that. That also kind of going into our university is building a virtual anatomy lab, if you will. We purchased an Anatomage digital cadaver table years ago, and currently we're revamping our spaces here. So, kind of started designing and ended up designing a space to where that device can be used. Part of that is the instructors can facilitate the education by putting it on multitude of screens. So the space has 6 screens. We also asked for digital for VR headsets to be part of that. So after we're done vetting software for the nursing school, I don't know if the biosciences are going to vet software for anatomy. I'm not sure if they're going to, but that's also another small project that's kind of on the side that I'm trying to balance everything else that I'm doing.
I mean, how do you manage your priorities? I mean, how do you decide, this one's more important than the others?
Well, first and foremost, as far as priorities go, is the current event. Is it set up? Is it running? And then to take that event down. I think that's paramount, um, especially on our run-of-the-mill days, making sure that those individuals, those participants, the students are taken care of, the faculty is all taken care of. That's kind of the highest priority. Um, Everything else, that's sometimes you just have to do time management, making sure you dedicate a little bit of time to each task, to each project. Um, as far as a priority, since I am in a school of nursing in the sim center, anything that happens in a sim center is a little bit higher priority. But I'm also happy to kind of expand my uh, my landscape and dive into anybody that needs help. I'm happy to help.
What
I
kind of team do you have there supporting you, Stephen? Do you have a
so
core faculty?
so our team in the sim center is myself, um, myself and two colleagues. So as far as time wise, it's two and a half. So two full timers and a part timer. Um, so my colleagues, Jen, shout out to Jen. She's my manager, if you will. She's the director of the Sim Center. Um, and Kaylee, she's wonderful to work with as well. And so shout out to Kaylee. So it's only the three of us that work. So as far as faculty, we do have faculty that work with us, that collaborate with us, but nobody that's attached to the Sim Center. So um, our team is unique. And actually, I believe Jen coined it. We're the best three-legged stool. And I kind of thought about that. I'm like, that's actually kind of interesting because four-legged stools wobble. Three-legged stools don't really wobble,
And if you take one of those legs away,
right? Then it's not really a stool now, is it?
yeah, but
um,
it all comes crumbling down.
right. So we, the three of us, bring to the table our backgrounds are unique because I bring in more of the technology aspect of it, right? Making sure that technology is updated, working, troubleshooting. Jen has been in academia for a very long time as well, teaching fundamentals and asking the questions that we don't really know to ask because we haven't really been in it. And Kaylee's coming from the hospital side of things, and also Jen and Kaylee are nurses by background, so they understand what the School of Nursing needs. So kind of balancing. Okay, um, I'm tech. Kaylee does debriefing and simulation education. Jen's more uh, academia. What is the material? How does that look like? If I'm kind of illustrating that, so we work together to make sure that we're up and running. We're able to ask the questions that need to be asked and get to pull the resources to make sure our programs run as efficiently as possible.
Yeah, I love working in a small team. I think when you've got
Yeah.
each other's backs, and you can really support each other that way. What's next for you, Stephen? What are you going to do next?
That's always a difficult that's always a difficult question because uh, knowing my past and where I've come from, where I'm going to go, um, I'm not 100% sure. If you were to say, hey, a 5 year plan, I would love to one day be able to uh, just kind of work on simulation in a way where it is uh, where it is innovative and ahead of the curve. And the problem with that is, I think, is simulation is an expensive mode of education. It is. So kind of being in that. So currently, what I'm doing is I'm getting my degree in computer information systems. So working on that aspect of it, I think that the future of simulation is going beyond the simulator, the physical simulator in the bed, though I think it is very important to still have that simulator in the bed. We haven't gotten in the technology realm where we have haptics and you can start feeling the virtual world as you're in that world. I don't think we're there yet, so I think it's still important to have that simulator. So that's kind of what I'm working as far as getting education. Um, I also think that at some point I'd like to expand my knowledge in healthcare. Now, whether that's going into nursing school or go to phys- physician assistant or anything, other allied healthcare providers, that might be on the horizon at some point. But I think one thing at a time. Let's get that degree done to kind of get that going, so I can at least prepare for the future. Because I think I see simulation going into that direction. Everybody's heading into that VR world. Right now, the cost of a VR headset is, I mean, I think if I put $500 is maybe even much. I bought mine for $250. So
Yeah, I think you can get Quest free for pretty cheap these days, unless you want to go for an Apple. But
exactly, and I've worked on the Hololens at a price tag of $3,500 a piece, and
yeah, I think
working.
it's about the same for us.
Yeah, so I think that um, I think that's where it's going. So um, I'm doing just a lot of research, a lot of education to figure myself out there in that world. I
How do you see AI coming into it then? I mean, we talked a lot about virtual reality, and it kind of goes hand in hand with it at the moment, doesn't it? With the way that the direction's going.
I think that AI is an important tool in what we need to get done. I think we can use it and harness the power that it has to um, help us create the scenarios, help us create and crunch data, or sorry, create solutions to everyday problems, help us crunch data. I think that AI is a very powerful tool, and with great power comes great responsibility on top of that. But I do see AI. I've used AI to crunch data. I've used AI to give me a prompt. I've asked AI to give me um, give me NCLEX style questions for practice. I've asked it a lot of things, and it's a very very powerful tool. And I think that I think there needs to be an acceptance of it as far as a tool goes. Just like any other tool, a wrench is great
Yeah, that
for nuts
cat
and
is
bolts.
certainly out of the box now, isn't it? We can't put that tool back in there. It's
No,
out now, isn't it? It's how we make it safe now. I think I think that we can't go back, but now we just need to focus on how we can make it safe.
and I
Because
agree with that. It's out of the box. So
yeah.
now we got to embrace it and see what we can do to leverage its power.
All right, Stephen. As I said, time would fly by, and we're already over a quarter. Is there any final thoughts that you'd like to share before we sign off?
I do want to recommend for anybody listening out there. Um, Simulation is a very interesting career choice. You can come from anywhere and everywhere. You don't have to have a healthcare background. You can have a healthcare background, not have an IT background. That's also fine too. So I've learned skills over the years that I would not be able to learn anywhere else without going and enrolling into nursing school, into med school, or anything else, or vice versa into AV. One thing I do want to recommend is surround yourself with anybody that's willing to help you out. If it's just, hey, I know somebody, go chat with them and just share that information, share that knowledge. I've invested in various books, um, simulation, operations and healthcare education, the comprehensive healthcare simulation books. Um, Invest in that. I think that'll help your program. It'll help your career. I recently certified I'm a certified healthcare simulation operations specialist. As of December, I kind of did it over holiday. So um, Yeah, it was great to do that. Now I'm going to try to do my simulation educator certificate. So um, always advocate for yourself. You're not just a sim tech. You're an integral part of the team, and without you, that team is that team would I think would be hurting. So yeah.
I think you've said it all there, Stephen. Well, thank you for joining us today. It's been great to hear from you. And if you ever want to come back to, dip into some of your projects whenever they come to fruition, it'd be great to have you back.
I appreciate it, Craig. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the opportunity and giving me a platform to chat on. I do. And if anything ever arises, please don't hesitate. Reach out as well. I'm happy to give you as much
Yeah,
information.
I think that's one thing that we can say about Simtex, that we've got a cracking community, haven't we? Everyone's, and that's kind of one of the scopes of the podcast is, to link everybody in, because everyone's, unfortunately, we design ourselves to working in these little silos, don't we, in our own little dark offices. But if you're having a problem, you can almost guarantee that someone else has had that problem and thought of the solution.
Exactly. Thank you.
All right, all the best. And that wraps up this episode of the SimTech podcast. A huge thank you to Stephen for sharing his experience and his insight. It's always inspiring to hear those who are pushing the boundaries of simulation in healthcare. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to follow or subscribe on your favourite podcast platform. And if you've got someone you'd love to hear from on the show, please get in touch. Until next time, keep innovating, keep collaborating, and as always, stay sim ready.